Welcome back to Healing with Kink. This is Karina, and for those of you that are new here, I'm a psychotherapist who happens to love all things somatic, kink, sexuality, and any deep conversation around how our relationship to intimacy shapes the way we show up in life. And that's why I love this episode. I'm interviewing Taylor Johnson, a sexologist who helps men overcome sexual dysfunction and step into greater confidence, mastery, and presence in their lives. His work blends Tantric, Taoist, and yogic sexual practices to really help men transform their relationship to sexuality and ultimately thrive in all areas of life. And in this episode, we're talking about Taylor's recent experience going to a BDSM retreat, and we get really honest about how couples are really fucking up their polarity by being the nice girl and the nice boy. So this episode is going to help you use the archetypes of dominance and submission to become a more full version of yourself. I promise you there's so much more to BDSM. It has radically changed my life, and by the end of this episode, I have no doubt that you're going to look at BDSM through an entirely different light and really understand how to cultivate deeper intimacy with your partner. So let's dive in. Hello, Taylor. I have you at the tail end of your Tantric BDSM retreat, which I'm very excited to talk about because everything is fresh for you. Literally 4 days fresh, 3 days fresh.
It's true. Yep. Very fresh.
So I would love to talk about what you think is the gift that a man gives to the world when he fully embodies the role of the dominant consciously and intentionally.
Let's just jump right in then. Let's just jump right in. Yeah, I will do that. I do feel a call to just say, I'm a guy who used to really struggle with sex, and that's what initially led me to the path that brought me to where I am now. I really struggled with all the dysfunctions in my 20s, erectile dysfunction from my porn addiction. I struggled with premature ejaculation and sexual anxiety. I was afraid to approach women. I was always concerned about what I was doing right or wrong in sex and trying to figure out, like, how could I best make her feel good without any real attachment or even awareness that my own desires were important. So I was a bit of a mess, and I went on a big journey to try to figure it out. I read a lot of books. I took a lot of workshops, and through the process, yes, my sexual, you could call it performance, we'll just use that language to start, did improve. And many other areas of my life improved as well from doing these practices. And I realized, whoa, there's a reason people write books about this kind of stuff. There's a reason people say your sex life impacts your entire life, because here I was experiencing it. The better I got with my sexual control and awareness, the better my friendships started to become, the more money I started to make in my business, and the more confident I felt as a person overall. And so that led me to a path where I just wanted to talk about it with people and share it with my friends and started to share it with the world. And people said, hey, this is actually something useful. Have you thought about creating an offer or a course or coaching, whatever? And it was a process to get to here, where now this is my full-time job. I help men who are struggling with sex have great sex, and men who are already having great sex have even better sex. And I love it. And I love it. So say that up front for a little context. Yeah.
Thank you for that context. And I love that you're speaking to the fact that although maybe someone comes to you for sex, it's like all these other things get impacted as well. Like you said, your business, your friendships, like it's truly, sex, I feel, is a microcosm that inevitably impacts everything else. So thank you for that context.
Yeah. And many of my biggest inspirations, well, I would say my big inspiration comes from really synthesizing a lot of the esoteric Eastern traditions with Western practicality, and if you look at Taoist sexuality, or what people call Tantra, what people call yogic sexuality, those traditions saw sex and sexual health and sexual vitality as a crucially important component for being a thriving man and a thriving human in the world in general. It wasn't this little thing that existed in a little box in our genitals, isolated from the rest of our life. They saw it as part of a holistic life practice. So if you can own your desires and express them as a man, chances are you're going to feel better when you're walking through the grocery store. If you're able to own your dominant archetype and really take care of your woman, take care of your partner sexually, and also in other realms of your life, chances are you're going to have better friendships. Chances are you're going to feel different as you walk in the world. I also want to say, I'm not somebody who claims to have it all figured out. I'm very much on my own journey, as you mentioned. Like, I just went to my first actual intensive BDSM training last week. I've done all kinds of other retreats and workshops around sex, but I've never done a BDSM specific one until now. And so this is, when I speak about this realm of dominance and submission and BDSM, I want to be really clear that I don't feel yet like I am a teacher in that space. I feel very much like I am a student, and I'm on this journey with whoever's listening and whoever wants to be on the journey. And that feels important to share too. I can teach you about all kinds of other stuff related to sex, but this particular realm, I feel a lot of excitement for the newness and the discovery and how deeply impactful it has been for my own life and my own understanding of how I have had relationships in the past and how I have failed those relationships in the past, and also some things that I was doing well and what I want to do going forward.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. You're so humble, first of all. And second of all, I think it makes it even more approachable as well. There's a lot of listeners who are so new to it. And you are the first male I have speak to this. So the fact that you have so much history around experience around sexuality and tantra, etc., but you're new to kink makes your perspective really valuable. So even before we kind of go into that, what made you think of going to a BDSM retreat? Was there something specific that you were like, I think I need this for XYZ reasons?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll just share the more transparent personal reason first, and then one of the bigger reasons. I'm in a period of my life right now where I'm doing a big just evaluation of my life. To put it simply, I turned 40 years old last June. I feel like I'm in this sort of existential evaluation of what have I done in life so far, and what do I want to keep doing, and what do I want to deepen in, and where are my deficits, and where do I want to grow? The dynamics in BDSM, dominance, submission, and different forms of, you could call it impact, where you're slapping maybe, or spanking, or choking somebody, or playing with ropes, or playing with different sensations. Like, those are all things that I had played with in sex, but they were not areas of my sex life that I felt like I had ever really cultivated skill with. So
Mastery.
I would do these things, and sometimes they would be great. And other times in the moment, I would sort of question myself, like, what am I doing here? Is this the right move? Are they liking this? And I could tell that sometimes people would like it, sometimes they wouldn't. If you want to become good at something, go study the thing, right? And so I thought, this is an area of my sex life that I have not invested my time and money to learn in, and I like it. I really enjoy being in that role in sex, and so why not go study it?
On the other side, you are glowing with it. Also, just backtrack. You turned 40. You're so vibrant and you're so alive. And I think it speaks to whenever I meet someone in the world of sacred sexuality, they are so alive. And I think it's just the fact that you're so connected to your life force. You're so connected to your sex, to your creativity. So I just want to praise you for the way you embody and show up. And
Thank you.
I would love to circle back to this question of dominance, and maybe speak just to your own perspective. Like, what do you think has opened up for you now, having stepped into the role of a dom a bit more intentionally and with more guidance from a mentor?
Yeah. So the people who led the retreat, their names are Om Rupani and Lori Handlers. And one thing that they said that really resonated with me is a very important distinction that helped me understand this world more, that dominance is very different from being domineering, right? And that distinction helps me a lot, because in the sexual context and in the life context, you could say that true dominance is really done through a lens of service. Like, if I'm going to be dominating somebody consensually, then that means whatever I'm doing is in service to their life. It's in service to their nervous system. It's in service to the relationship that we have between us. And it's in service to all the people that we will impact from that point on. So there's a lot of care there. There's a lot of attunement. And that's different from being domineering. Another way to say that is being a controlling asshole.
Literally.
Or doing
Very
what
big
you
difference.
want, or doing what you want without that level of attunement and without that level of care. And that often has really negative impacts on people. And in the sexual context, of course, that's going to have horrible impacts on people. And nobody's going to want to keep being in a sexual relationship like that. But what I've found is that, well, I really enjoy being in the dominant role. It's fun. And I enjoy the skills that I've learned from last week that allow me to stay in that role for longer instead of wavering in it. Like in the past, I would say that I would enter into dominant phases in a sexual experience, dominant moments, but it would not be sustained throughout an entire experience. So one of the things we really practiced at the retreat was creating what we called scenes, which I'm sure some of you listening know what this means.
Yeah.
It's an agreed upon period of time and scenario where you create a list of shared desires and boundaries, etc. And then you do the scene. And for the entire scene, you stay in the role that you have committed to up front. So for me, it's deeply liberating and insanely pleasurable. And I just get a lot of pleasure on being able to give somebody a good pleasure experience. And that doesn't mean that I'm letting go of my pleasure or my desire in the process too, right? Because the magic really happens when both people's desires, the submissive person and the dominant person, when they match up and they line up. There's incredible juice there.
It's a two-way street. For me,
Totally.
when I step into the role of a dominant, my gift is, or the gift I feel that I receive the most is being able to see someone soften and surrender and hold space. To me, that's like, oh, you trust me enough to let go? You trust me enough to hold you in this? That's what I find most beautiful. What did you find to be the biggest medicine for you in having someone fully surrender to you?
That's a great question. I feel like I understand female sexuality so much more than I
Tell
did
us.
14 days ago. Well, this is something I'd like to check with you in real time in this podcast, and we can have a conversation about it to see if you relate.
Tell me.
And this is something I'm wanting to like explore with people going forward, Yeah, I'll just be real and transparent again, because what the fuck else are we doing, So in the past, if I was wanting to get a partner aroused, I might do a variety of different things, hold them, touch them, kiss them, etc., like do dominant-ish type things. But relatively quickly, much slower than most people, but still relative, a goal of mine would be to bring up sexual pleasure in the system, right? And I might do by going to her nipples, or I might do that by going to her pussy. And using those erogenous zones as a place to build arousal in the woman's system so she would be more in pleasure and open. But the big shift for me was really taking an even more extended amount of time to give a woman what's called containment before going to genitals or before going to breasts at all, And
Amen.
so, and from that place, having the woman's arousal kind of blossom and become this fire that becomes ravenous, that's like, fucking take me now,
Yes.
Which is like, it's a very different thing than if I were to just like focus on the breasts with my tongue to try to like push arousal. Like if instead I really hold this person, and if you're listening and you can't see the video, like I'm demonstrating just like holding somebody tight and in a more like dominant way, breathing with them and moving them around and giving them an experience where their nervous system can down regulate and feel held. That's the space where like real deep arousal comes from. And
my God.
so you resonate. Yeah.
Completely resonate. What I'm hearing. It's just, there's a safety.
Yeah. It's a safety, and it's also like it's a deepening. It's a deepening. And from that place of safety and deep ease, the natural arousal can flourish. Right.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've fallen into with partners. But if I'm going to tell on myself and admit some things, like I'd say like I haven't been as good at that part. I like really practiced the art of going down on a woman and fingering and all that stuff. And I'm like very skilled in that department.
Good skills.
But but the actual skill of like how to physically, consensually dominate somebody so that their nervous system relaxes to the point where they start to just get like fiery, ferociously aroused and wet. Like that's a new skill set for me,
Oh my God.
And I love it. And it's delicious. And it's so fun to watch somebody's system open up that way.
God bless your future lover.
And yes, totally. And part of that is this new fascination too with, I feel like, so the way Om and Lori talked about women, like they talked about women, the modern woman a lot. They talked about the modern man a lot. And when I say those words, I'm really referring to different archetypes, right? And both of those archetypes are problematic and limiting, but I'll just speak to the women's side of things first.
Mm.
From this place of deep containment, when a woman's arousal can blossom, which I did experience at this retreat, which was delicious, the true sexual appetite of the woman can come through. Women, broad generalization, I think actually have a really voracious sexual appetite. Like really, really want sex, really, really want to be fucked, really in a good way, really, really want that kind of juicy connection. But many women limit themselves from that because there's not a permission field given, right? And so this archetype of the modern woman is that they get really fed from being the person who is attractive, from having people approach them. There's this sort of like social validation that comes from that, which is great. And when it comes to sex, sex is a scary thing because of a lot of society really devalues women who explore their sexuality.
Right.
To a certain extent, like slut shaming, all that stuff. And there is a whole big sexual empowerment scene happening right now. But even still within that scene, there's a lot of like, oh, you're exploring with more than one person? Ooh. Oh, you're exploring a group scenario? Or you're exploring with like totally submitting slut, like, so like all that stuff is sort of piled up on top of the female nervous system and makes it hard to really open up. So that's where giving the containment and the giving a strong permission field for the woman's sexuality to really blossom is crucially important.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. There's a space that needs to be there first in order for her to blossom. Otherwise, there's no containment. I love the word containment, by the way. Containment and attunement.
Yeah.
Those two things with dominance. Speaking to the modern man.
Yeah. Speaking to the modern man. Yeah. So modern man, which I have seen very much of in myself too. Like we all have these archetypes, right? No one is safe. We all grew up in this
No
world.
one is safe.
So the modern man, to put it simply, and again, this is me translating and sharing what I've learned recently, but it applies to all kinds of other things that I've learned. It's the nice guy. It's basically the guy that doesn't want to offend, that doesn't want to get into fights, that doesn't want to be the person who like steps on people's toes because he wants acceptance. He wants to be safe. He doesn't want to appear as domineering to women. He doesn't want to appear as toxic. It's like all this stuff. So he puts up this front. It's like a facade. Or I'll do the nice thing just so you like me. Or I won't tell you how I really feel just so I don't have to deal with your response. I'll play it safe. And I won't step into the actual potency that is my potential as a man and just kind of like lean back, lean back in the world. And that leaves a lot of untapped potential on the table, both in life in general and also sexually and in relationship. And I'm just as susceptible to this as anybody else. And I've had struggles with this as well too. But I really appreciate how last week there was such an emphasis on the language of this and the awareness of it and how it shows up in the sexual context. And I feel like I understand it more deeply now.
Yeah. I mean,
does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. The good boy, I've seen good boy plenty of times. I've been good girl plenty of times. They kill polarity, first of all. And they actually do nothing, not even just for our partners, but for ourselves. If we're showing up as this, it's manipulation technically, right? If we're acting a certain way to get love, that's manipulation. And in our heads, we're like, oh, I'm just being a good person. You're manipulating such so that you get love.
Totally. Yeah. The flip side is to really own your desires as a man. First, own it to yourself. Like, what do you actually want? What do you like really? Like, what are your fantasies? Like, what would you really like to have happen in a sexual experience? And what would you like to have happen in a relationship and your life in general? But first, really getting clear on that with yourself. And then if you could take the step to say those edgy things to a partner or a lover, oof, that's rich. That's rich.
Hold
But
on.
that's not being the modern man. That's not playing it safe. That's leading into the edge and leading with desire. And one of the things that M.S.Ed at the retreat that I loved, that I think is probably true, he said something to the effect of like, if there's a man who's connecting with a woman and he says with absolute clear confidence in an experience with her, it's like, baby, you are so fucking sexy. Like, I just want you to pee on me tonight. I just want you to piss on me in the shower. Like, that would be so delicious. Probably many women would be like, well, I don't know. He's pretty into it. That could be kind of hot, but at first she'd have the little resistance, but his desire, she would be intrigued by it.
Oh my God. Let's pause on this because as a woman, so now that I've gotten into this work, I'm very comfortable speaking my desires. The crazy ones and the not crazy ones. When I'm with a partner who isn't as comfortable with their desires, first of all, it's felt. And second of all, I typically hear this answer from men when I say, oh, what are you into? They're like, it's this like passive type of energy. And what I love so much about your example is, yes, it was peeing and it's far end of the spectrum, but the level of confidence in which you said it, that's what creates sexiness. And so for the person listening right now, please speak your desires, because it's very sexy as the person receiving it to see you in that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, imagine that person had said when she asked, so what are you into? And he's like, well, I think maybe it might be nice to experience like you like peeing on me sometime. Cringe.
Very.
Right? Cringe.
Very cringe. Like, I don't feel the conviction that you actually want that. It's awkward and it's ridden with shame.
Totally. Yeah. Ridden with shame. So that's a piece. I want to jump back and say another part about the female experience, because I feel in some ways like some blinders have been removed from my eyes over the last week. And I want to say this part. I notice even my modern man, nice guy archetype coming up with what I'm about to say.
Ooh, what is it?
Which is like, it's like when I was walking through the airport, like because I flew back from the Dominican Republic recently, I was walking around and I was looking at women in the airport, and I had this thought in my mind of like, I know your secret. It's like, I know your secret. Like, yeah, you put on, of course, like you're in public, you're not going to be a sexual being out here, of course. But like deep down, like you really, really like deeply want this. And you probably haven't been held in a way that allows you to totally flourish. And society is just keeping you down. And I was just having this, like, it obviously wasn't psychedelic, but I don't know if you've done psychedelics, but you have these moments on psychedelics where you feel like some new revelation has been pulled back. I was like, I feel like I'm having a fucking revelation in this airport, walking around being like, all you women are just like wild sexual creatures.
Yes.
But it was not in this way of where I was like looking at them like you slut fuck toy. It was this reverence. It's like, holy shit. Like just scanning like, this is incredible. Like I wish somebody had told me this when I was 20. Yeah.
Most women want to be taken and ravished. It blows my mind. For Valentine's Day, my friends and I gathered and we had this little workshop where we practiced giving to each other, mini scenes, if you will. And I was not surprised at all, actually, but every single woman wanted some level of ravishing, wanted some level of like, okay, ladies, I want you to take me and pull me and like pull my hair and call me this and call me that. And in that moment, I was like, this is what women want. Like, we want this. And there are outliers who don't, right? So that's okay.
Of course. Yeah. There's 8 billion people in this world, or however many. Of course, there are going to be people who don't relate. But it reminds me, I went to a tantric workshop like 7 years ago on an island in Thailand, and there were like 60 or 70 people in this thing. And at a certain point, they asked all the men and all the women to write down their hottest sexual fantasy anonymously. And then they would read some of them in front of the class. And then after class, they were left up there so we could go up and read the different fantasies. And it was very illuminating to me, even at that moment. Like, just to create a little bit of contrast, most of the men's fantasies were like, there are 2 women giving me a blowjob. And then I came in both of their mouths at the same time, or like there's this, I'm fucking this woman this way and this thing is happening. It's like super logistical, like very sort of like seen, very visually, almost pornographic sounding, and this is not like, I'm not saying this to say, men, you're bad for wanting that. I get it. We're visual creatures and there's a certain sexiness to the visual image that's just awesome. But in contrast, most of the female fantasies that I read involved some sort of scenario that was like, I'm at a restaurant and there's this man who walks in and he gives me the eyes and somehow we both just know, and he walks up to me and just grabs me and takes me to the side area and like fucks me against the wall.
I love this.
Like that kind of theme. And I remember reading this like, whoa. And they all, like, so many of them had that vibe. It was like a vibe of a scene and then being taken, being ravaged with attunement, Yeah.
I can bet that is a fantasy of mine. There's something about attunement. It just creates a space. I am curious, since you've had the experience of, now you've had this experience of really creating that space for the woman to blossom, right? Yeah. And you've also had the experience of maybe going to the nipples too early, erogenous zones too early. What's the difference, or what does someone need to do in order to not rush? Like, how does one cultivate attunement and presence to create that space for the woman to actually blossom in that way?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first, it's just to have the understanding to even just intellectually know that arousal can build from a place of deep relaxation. And you don't need to like really go for it on the erogenous zones to build it up, you know? And we might think that as a man, because in many ways that's how our system responds. But to just know that giving good presence and good touch and good time in that space will allow for that to happen, I think that's a good first step, you know? And then there are a bunch of other different categories that we could look at. I mean, the odds are kind of stacked against us in today's modern world. Like the quality of your mind is very important. Your level of distractibility is important. How able are you to pay attention to something for more than 60 seconds or more than 30 seconds? Like, can you sustain your attention on somebody for that long before you get distracted or start thinking about something else, you know? Can you be with your breath? Can you be with your own body? Can you be with yourself enough to even understand what attunement with self feels like so that you can then feel it with another?
I'm popping in here to say that if you're a woman that's wanting to learn how to connect with her body, I have a free 5-day course for women who are ready to connect deeply with their sensuality. Because without this level of presence, it's impossible to have an incredible intimate life. So head into the show notes to get instant access to my course. There's pleasure rituals, there's tantric breathwork exercises. You are going to love it. All right, let's get back in.
Like all of those are great first steps. And there's so many different things you can do to practice that. I mean, get a massage, and instead of zoning out, do a slow breathing practice the whole time and just really focus on what you're feeling in your body while it's happening, right? It's a little bit more of an active experience, but you're still receiving the touch. You're just bringing mindfulness to it instead of zoning out.
Yeah.
Like that's a nice way to do it. Doing Qigong, you know, doing certain forms of like form-based martial art where you do a progression of movements with mindfulness. Like the list is quite long of things you could do to cultivate that, you know?
Yeah, but ultimately the bigger theme, what I'm hearing is that it's slowness and not needing to rush to the next thing.
Yeah.
Can't rush.
Yeah. And to clarify that slow doesn't necessarily mean the sort of soft, gentle candles and fluffy pillow vibe, right? Like slow could be, I'm going to tie up your arms to your body and then pull you in like sharply and then hold you there, you know? And so I like convey to your nervous system and body that I've got you.
Right.
And then in that space, then you can relax, you know, and I can hold you tight and I can like dig my fingers in to the flesh, to the skin. And it's not like caressing necessarily softly, but it's like this, I got you kind of a vibe, you know, like pull the hair a little bit, but it's not like a yank of the hair. It's a sustained, like, I'm with you kind of juicy sort of a thing.
I see. I am visualizing this entirely. These are such good skills. People listening, you need to be looking at this video because what you're explaining, these little things make such a difference. And women are so sensitive that we feel when there's presence and attunement, and we feel when there isn't. And when there isn't, it's very difficult for us to even stay in our own bodies because we're like, wait, where is he? He's not with me. Where is he?
Yeah.
You felt that?
Yeah. And I can hear like, I know in my younger self, if I was listening to this, I would hear what I'm saying. And part of me would think, well, that sounds kind of shitty. When do I get to experience my desires? You know, or something like that, you know, something to the effect of like, oh, am I just there to serve the woman? Like, am I important too? And to that, I would respond like, yeah, your desires are absolutely important. I mean, even before the sexual experience, you're having a conversation around what you want. Right. But then in the sexual experience, if you give somebody good containment, if you give a woman good containment, there's a very high probability that 20, 30 minutes in, somewhere in there, she's going to be like, I fucking want you inside of me right now. Like Literally. Fucking take me, like, please, like I would verbally say, like, please fuck me, you know, like that sort of a thing. It's not a beeline to get to that destination. I want to be clear about that. But it is like, it's amazing when that happens. And that's what's possible, you know, that's what's possible. And then like all the things you want to do are probably possible from that space, you know.
I would agree to that. I would agree to that.
Yeah.
I find it very sexy when a man takes his time. It's almost like I can trust his it's this level of self-mastery that I see in him. I feel like I can trust him more, that he's not rushing to go immediately to my pussy or to my nipples. If he's just present with me, there's no agenda, it feels. Even if something is pre-negotiated in a scene, there's something that feels a lot more spacious for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it totally does make sense. And it's so easy to fall into patterns that don't support that too, you know, in long-term relationship and just in life in general, because of all the inputs we get from movies, from porn. No porn video I've ever watched ever has a man given a woman good containment. It just goes right to the fucking. Sometimes there are sensual moments, but it's active, right?
Yeah.
It's active sensuality. There's passion there. There's never just a being together. There's never a resting in the space. So like most men, myself included, have had hours of visual imprinting from porn that shows us the opposite of what actually creates a good arousal field between people, you know?
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah. And then even in long-term relationships that I've been in, even though I know that slowness is important, like I've still fallen into the trap of trying to build arousal as quickly as possible before our interpersonal baggage comes to the surface, you know? Does that make sense? I'm like, oh, we better get aroused quick before something happens. And it's like,
wait, you lost me on that one. What do you mean before something happens?
Okay. So sometimes, especially in long-term relationship, if you ever go through a tenuous period or a tricky period or something, there's many things can interrupt sex, right? Yeah. Many things can interrupt sexual desire. It could be a resentment here or a discomfort there. And because you're not in that phase of hot lover period anymore, it's easy to kind of get knocked off the horse. Or something that I fell into was like, oh, I need to, yes, slowness is important, but if I go too slow, then there'll be room for bad things to happen. You know, so I got to go fast to make sure the bad things don't happen. But it was I'm just trying to in this particular episode, I'm trying to speak more about my own experiences than just from the place of teaching, because I think it will be interesting for people, and also to know that I'm human too, and I have to dance and struggle with this stuff as well. And I have had sexual experiences with women where I did not do these things, you know?
Oh, I'm sure we all have. We all have. And
yeah, totally.
You put words to things that I've experienced that I didn't have words for. That in particular, like going quickly with a long-term relationship because you're like, oh, well, in the space, is this wound going to come up again that continues to come up? Like, we're already in the zone. Let's keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And the fucking irony here's the thing that's like blowing my mind as I look back on previous relationships is if I had actually deeply understood the concept of containment, and if I had really understood how to give it, even in a non-sexual scenario, I think some of my relationships would have turned out quite differently. And maybe they still would have ended, but they would have ended for quite different reasons, you know? And I remember how to say this. I am a fan of therapy. I think it's great. I also think a lot of couples therapy is bullshit. And I think a lot of couples therapy ends up just stirring the pot without actually removing things from the pot. You know, you just sort of stay cycling in your shit. And I think in a lot of relationships between men and women, like if a man's able to give good containment, I'll just give you an example. Something I thought of is like, if I were to have set aside 1 hour a week to give a past partner an experience of actual physical containment in her body that did not even go towards sex, but that started to be the field of our relationship, that I was cultivating that dynamic in how we wanted to relate in general, I think that would have fundamentally changed the entire tone of our relationship.
Game changer.
You know? Would you, I mean, you're a woman, how does that land in your system when you hear that idea?
True. 100% true. Yeah, true out of personal experience and true out of seeing clients as well. And one of my partners and I had that on our homework from one of our therapists, our couples therapist. She said, hey, once a week, do a scene. It doesn't need to lead to sex, but you need to have a time where Karina can surrender and you can lead as the man in the relationship. And we did not fulfill on our homework, and we subsequently broke up. But had we fulfilled, I have no doubt that we would have stayed together, or like you said, broken up for other reasons. But I do believe that cultivating that polarity at minimum an hour a week can work magic for a couple.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I definitely understand that it can feel difficult to do practice like that, at least feel difficult to schedule it and get up the motivation or gusto to do it. Because I fell into that in previous relationships. But something about the way physical containment was demonstrated to me at this last retreat that I went to makes it feel like way more accessible in terms of a practice that I could do even if things feel tricky in a relationship. Easy for me to say in this moment, but I really do think like, oh, that's simple. You don't have to talk so much.
No.
You just get to be in bodies and like be in these different roles in connection. How juicy.
Ultimately, the body is what speaks the most, right? Like animal to animal,
Yeah.
animal body to animal body. I always raise one ear or eyebrow when someone says they've been with the same couples therapist for like, I don't know, 5+ years and they're still going through the same issue. Like that to me is somewhat of a red flag.
Yeah. It's like you just paid them a lot of money to do what? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's interesting. So one of the teachers from this last week, he said he has some demo videos of him doing sessions, being a dom for people on his platform. One of the pieces of feedback he says he often gets is it's boring to watch the videos because visually there's not a whole lot happening for a lot of the experience. And it's about as far removed from porn as you could possibly imagine, right? So imagine you're like watching a man hold this woman in a pose where he's like really containing her body and they stay there for 5 minutes.
Wow.
You know, or 3 minutes, or even 1 minute, like 1 minute in a pose like that. From the outside perspective, you're like, all right, cool, what's next? But from the inside perspective, if you're in that moment, it's pretty wild what can happen. You know, it's pretty wild. It's like a whole universe of things are happening in that connection that you're just not seeing from the outside.
Absolutely. When you stepped into the role of a sub in this training, what did you experience when being contained by someone?
Yeah. So great question. One of the things that Lori and Ohm said is that if you want to be a really good dom, it's also very helpful to get into the sub role so you can know what it's like. So you actually have an idea of the territory you're trying to bring people into.
So important.
And I think for me, it was crucially important. I had multiple experiences. So luckily, actually, there were some professional doms there that I got paired to partner with just by chance. So I got to experience highly skilled hands and nervous systems and like, highly skilled women doing this to me when I was the sub. And wow, it's so delicious. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. So one of the scenes was just a very simple one where this woman was, she was doing a certain tie with rope on my wrists. And then she was just going to tie me up and move me into a couple different positions and hold me just for 15 minutes. There was no like hitting, there was no biting, there was no sexual stuff, but beyond just the tying and the holding. And she was so skilled at this that in 15 minutes, I entered what people call subspace for the first time. And it was incredible. And it's a state of consciousness and a state of being of total surrender, total submission, total, if you want to get scientific about it, just total parasympathetic nervous system activation. I felt like my consciousness, my body, my mind, everything had just this downward flow into the earth, this not soft, it wasn't soft. It was like being at the bottom of a pool in such deep stillness, held by the water that it was wild. It was wild. And very much to my surprise, even just sitting there in that space, like I started to feel sparks of arousal. Like I started to feel my genitals responding a little bit and some heat building. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, it's true. It's true what they're talking about, you know? And another time, a second time, I was a sub for somebody who, what I asked for was to get tied up a little bit. And then to have different sort of sensations given to me all over my body, including a flogger, including tickling, including sharp things, just to be in a sensual experience, just to be in an embodied experience, because I wanted to practice letting go and just connecting to myself. And this went on for about an hour.
Wow.
Somewhere around the 30-minute mark, I started to feel like I was on MDMA. And there's not an exaggeration. I felt the physical sensations in my system that I have felt when taking MDMA, that sort of full body pleasure response, the tingling, the expansion of consciousness, the expansion of awareness. There was music playing, and I felt like I could hear all the different notes and subtleties in the music coursing through my body. My breath was slower. I felt pleasure everywhere. It was amazing. It was amazing. And it really opened my eyes to the possibility of what that could be for people. I had heard people in the workshop talk about it, feeling like they were on drugs, but to actually experience that and to know what it's like, I have this frame of reference now for when I give people sessions. I know what's possible, at least in the limited experiences that I've had. And so that feels really empowering to me, and also really important for me to understand that space.
Oh my God.
And yeah. And so then I'll say, like, one of my desires going forward for the next 4 to 5 months is to practice different sessions with a number of different people. And this does not mean like me wanting to have sex with a lot of different people. Like, many sessions could not even involve sex at all, but wanting to dom people into an experience of like deep nervous system regulation and sensation. So I get the practice of that because I also enjoy that. And they talk about, like, one of the markers of a good dom is if you get off in giving your sub a rich experience, you get off in impacting their nervous system in a good way. And I really do. Like, it feels like such a fun art and craft. And so I will be open to and looking for people to explore that with, at least for the next 6 months. Just, yeah, because it's fascinating to me. It's so rich. And I'll be treating it as like a student in many ways, but also very capable of doing this because I learned I'm good at it, which is great too. So,
and you enjoy it, which I think is the most important part. Yeah. Okay. So everyone slide into Taylor's DMs.
I think one thing that also feels important to say is that one of the pieces that really struck me was, and you mentioned this earlier, the sub role is not passive, right? Both people are actively choosing to be in the experience, and both people are actively participating in the experience to the degree that you've agreed upon beforehand, right?
Right.
But submission is very much a choice. I could feel when I was in those sessions, especially the second one where I started to get tied up. At one point, like, the rope didn't feel that great on my skin and my knee was kind of tweaking a little bit, but I wasn't to the point of where I needed to stop anything. I was just slightly uncomfortable. And I realized, you know what? I can do that. Like, I can be slightly uncomfortable for the sake of this greater pleasure. And I'm not saying to like endure discomfort, but one of the things they said is, as a sub, you might try experimenting with being a little bit uncomfortable in your sessions, you know? And that is a choice. And the choice to submit to that is profound. For me, it was a profound choice to choose to submit to that and to choose to submit to this person instead of asking for little micro adjustments. Hey, could you fix this rope here? Hey, could you do this thing here? Hey, actually, I'd like to move a little bit this way. It's like, no, I'm just gonna, I give it up.
It's so empowering.
Crazy empowering. And that's where the deep pleasure ultimately was able to grow from.
There's something that opens up after that. It's funny you bring up that example because when I hired a dom, the first, I think, 5 minutes, I was very uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, what am I doing here? Like, well, why did I hire a dom? Very like uncomfortable. Like, I should just call my red card. And I don't know in what moment I softened and I surrendered into it. And there is a beauty that opens up when you not push through. That's not the word, but choose. Maybe it's the word. Just choose to submit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of this. I would love for you to tell people about the upcoming things you have, some in-person work you have going on.
Yeah.
As we wrap up.
Well, thanks for having me on while this is fresh. It feels fun and useful for me to talk about and reflect. And hopefully you listening have gotten something useful from this too, or at least a little bit of inspiration. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so rich. So the main thing I have coming up is a retreat for men. It's going to be in July at an amazing retreat center in Asheville. It's going to be about sexual leadership. So sexual leadership and advanced somatics, basically for any man who's looking to step into his leadership role even more in the sexual experience and feel confident, own your desires, and feel vital as well. Too. Going to mix all kinds of stuff from leadership exercises to qigong to different practice. It's going to be rich. I'm very excited about that. Yeah. I've led retreats for the past couple of years and I love it. And this time it's going to be longer, more focused. So that's the main one. You can find it on my website, taylorjohnson.life. And yeah, if you want to watch the video that you just watched of my recap video from my retreat, that's on my YouTube channel as well.
Great video. It was right in front of the ocean too, just so fresh. Like I can just sense the freshness of all of this in you. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. To everyone listening, all of Taylor's links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If this resonated, hit like, hit subscribe. I do this all for free because I fucking love it. Your support truly means the world. It helps grow the show. And if you're feeling generous, post it on your story and tag me. I would love to repost. If you want to go even deeper, head into the show notes, check out my free membership, my one-on-one services. The work does not need to end here. It's truly just the beginning.